For years now, I have heard people refer to their capsule wardrobes and just feel like a straight up outsider who's not part of some secret club. Like, how do you have a capsule wardrobe? What even is a capsule wardrobe these days? Because on paper, having a capsule wardrobe sounds great. It sounds like such an unlock. And I just think it's so much harder to curate one today than it was even just a few short years ago. On social media, there are so many new in pieces being showcased that it feels like you have to have or have to look at right now, while clothing pricing is going up dramatically and quality is also declining. Clothing in general isn't even really what it used to be at this point. At the same time, I'm out here trying to be intentional about my spending and being thoughtful about what I'm choosing to consume when it comes to clothing. But even sometimes when you find the perfect piece, maybe it is out of budget, or maybe you are more likely to buy a dupe or something cheaper. So it got me wondering, like, is a capsule wardrobe even attainable today in 2026? Or has the fashion landscape changed and shifted so much in the last few years that we need to completely just rethink what a capsule wardrobe even is? That's what I want to get into in today's episode. If you've ever felt like you have nothing to wear or wonder why you can't just seamlessly recreate the Pinterest outfits that populate your feed, then I think you'll take some value from today's chat. Before we get into all things capsule wardrobe related, first we're going to do a little create and consume. If you're a newer listener, first of all, that's the name of the show you're listening to. And this is also a little mini segment I do at the beginning of each episode where I share what I've been creating and consuming in the last week. As a full-time content creator, I'm always doing both of those things, but you guys are also doing those things, whether you're taking pictures of your cat or making a meal or painting in the afternoons. We all create and consume so much more than we even realize, hence the need for this podcast and the inspiration behind the name. So I always tell you guys what I'm creating and consuming, and you can also let me know what you are creating and consuming as well. If you feel so inclined, comment on today's episode. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, you can also email me, DM me, reach out. All the ways to get in touch are always in the show notes. One thing that I'm creating this week is a little neighborhood guide over on my Instagram. So I've set this up as a carousel, and I really wanted it to feel like the pages of a magazine. I just wanted it to feel super editorial and curated. So I've been doing this little vlog series on YouTube where I go to a different New York City neighborhood and film my day there. And this is my way of kind of translating that over to short form without it being super repetitive. So I will link my Prospect Heights neighborhood guide in the show notes if you want to check it out. And I basically spotlighted like a cute coffee shop you can go to, where to grab lunch, something cultural to do, shopping, and all of that good stuff. So if you are planning a trip to New York, or if you live here already and you're looking for inspiration for like what to do on a weekend or how to spend a perfect Friday in that neighborhood, I hope that this will be helpful for you. And for what I'm consuming this week, I actually had another podcast episode that I listened to and that I really loved, that I think you guys would love as well. One of my favorite podcasts, Note to Self, published an episode this week called The Return of the Party Girl. And the host, Peyton, is someone who I have just been following for so long. I first found her blog back in like 2015, 2016, I want to say. And I followed her journey ever since. And I really love Note to Self. It was definitely one of the things that made me feel like I could maybe create a podcast that was a solo show, because I felt like she did such a good job of it. And while she does have guests from time to time, The Return of the Party Girl, her episode that was published last week at the time this episode is coming out, it's episode 257 of her podcast, though, and I will link it in the show notes. This is a solo episode where she dives into why the Party Girl has kind of seen a resurgence in recent months, as a contrast to like the clean girl aesthetic and trad wife and a lot of these other ideals that are kind of very pared back or conservative in nature, and that make women kind of smaller than they actually are, whereas the party girl is kind of like a larger in life character. She basically traces the shift from clean girl and trad wife aesthetics to the revival of the party girl, who is inherently messier and a lot freer, and also represents a more liberal kind of political view too. And I really like the intersectionality of this episode because it touches on politics, it touches on trends and aesthetics, it touches on social media, and it touches on beauty and fashion. I really enjoyed that one. And I also like a lot of her other solo episodes where she kind of dives into a topic or a cultural trend like this. So I will be sure to link that for you guys. Let's move on and get into today's main topic of conversation, which is all about why building a capsule wardrobe is harder today than it's ever been. Because again, I feel like this is something I have attempted to do and tried and failed at just more times than I can count. And it feels like such an unlock. It feels like such a cheat code when someone says that they have a capsule wardrobe, or when I see capsule wardrobe videos online and it's like, here's 8,000 ways that you can style these 12 items. And I'm like, that seems like a math problem that I should be able to solve, even as someone who arguably did not have a good time in math class in grade school. It seems so much simpler. It seems like such a cheat code, and it seems like a thoughtful way to be able to get dressed. But when I think about some of the reasons why building a capsule wardrobe is so much harder now, the first thing that comes to mind is that clothing has simply gotten more expensive, and it's just not as readily attainable as it used to be at the quality that it used to be at. And when I say that clothing is expensive, I think it is just expensive relative to other necessities that have also kind of jumped up in price, whether it is just the natural, increase of pricing that a business should do to kind of continue to grow each year and stay in business and reflect the cost of production, coupled with inflation, particularly in the United States, which is where I'm based and where I'm kind of speaking from perspective wise. And this will certainly vary company to company. Like a Brooklyn based local designer that produces everything in house is obviously going to have different production costs than a mid market or fast fashion retailer at a larger scale. But the cost of labor in general is just continuing to rise and reflect the changing times. And that's kind of without even really touching on things like tariffs and trade wars and things that we have seen with the current administration. Let's say that there's a small local brand that you love and they sell a sweater priced at $200. I think right now, most Americans would probably at least balk at spending $200 on a sweater, even if it is great quality, even if it is something that they feel like they'll wear a lot. I just feel like for me personally, and for some of my friends that I've spoken with as well, there are just so many other uses of money right now that feel a little bit more important than that. Even if it is, again, a brand that you love and you want to be supportive and you should be willing to pay the price in a sense, it just feels too expensive for most people, I would say. And I think as things stand right now, a lot of people are prioritizing necessities over wardrobe upgrades. And I even look at myself and think about the clothing that I used to buy when I was younger, which obviously was going to be a little more fun and maybe out there, even more so compared to how I dress now at 31. But I can't tell you the last time that I bought something that I thought was truly fun only for my closet. Like, basically everything I shop for now has to have some kind of purpose or function behind it. Like, can I wear this to work? Can I wear this running errands? Can I wear this to a meeting in the city? Can I wear this to record the podcast? All of those things right now have kind of superseded just the idea of buying something fun. And I want to say that makes me sad. I feel like the fun pieces are not really part of the capsule wardrobe conversation, but just in general, I feel like I'm not necessarily shopping for as many fun, like night out tops or things like that. And again, it's partially a reflection of my lifestyle now, the fact that I am not like going out as much or whatever. But even just owning those pieces for myself and even just styling them for fun or wearing them and being a little bit overdressed at the function. I feel like my shopping priorities lately always come back to the basics, like denim, basic tops, practical outerwear, practical footwear. I just feel like the list goes on and on. Like, I can't tell you the last time I bought a pair of high heels and was like, oh my God, these are just for fun. You know what I mean? Really, the bottom line is that clothing has gotten more expensive. And I feel like this is across the board in categories. It's happening in fast fashion and it's also happening in luxury. And fast fashion has long been critiqued for making way too many pieces, low quality clothing that ends up in landfills, and a whole host of other things. But I think what's interesting and what I was thinking about when I was trying to put together this outline is that fast fashion isn't like the only problem anymore. I really just feel like brands, fashion brands specifically, have changed so much over the years. And sometimes it has to do with them relocating their production, whether there's a situation in a country that they've been producing in that's no longer viable and they're looking to go somewhere else due to tariffs or due to production costs or labor or whatever the case is. There are a lot of fast fashion companies out there that are trying to outpace even just normal trend schedules and are producing clothing at such a high volume that it's impossible to keep track of it all, and it's impossible to follow coherently like what the thought process is for how often new items are dropped and how many are produced all at once. And then when you think about a small business and how expensive it's gotten to run a small business, especially if you are trying to produce, let's say, locally in New York City, the cost of doing that is just so astronomical and it's so much higher than it's ever been that a small fashion business functioning out of New York is most likely just trying to keep the lights on in many cases, just pay for materials, pay for production and labor, pay for their employees if they have any, if they're more than, just a team of one. And I think that when we kind of like look under the hood at this and look a little bit deeper, there have also been a lot of leadership changes at legacy brands. And I think this is a reflection of how we view careers in general in 2026 compared to even how we viewed them like 10 years ago, which I feel like was more in the girl boss era. And I think that a lot of people who have worked in fashion for a long time and who have been very loyal to fashion are kind of pivoting and moving in other directions due to burnout or due to the fact that they simply can't continue to make the kind of money that they would hope they could make even at a senior or director level at a fashion brand. Because again, I feel like the budget for a fashion brand is always just going to be really, really tight unless you are a big box retailer or fast fashion. I feel like I talked about this in one of my previous New York Fashion Week episodes, but Rebecca Minkoff was on a podcast where she was explaining the cost of what it actually takes to show at New York Fashion Week. And I think we could put her as basically like a mid-market brand, right? Like where the handbags are around $300 to $400. She's produced in New York, but I would say she's known at a global scale and carried in lots of big retailers. And she had emphasized just how much money it cost for her to show at Fashion Week and why she didn't necessarily think that she was always getting a good return on investment of that money spent, or why sometimes that was only possible for her to do with the help of a sponsor. And I think any brand owner would probably argue too, like their biggest priorities would be to make sure that quality is up to par and to make sure that their staff is getting paid. And I mean, once you do those two things, though, you could be like almost out of money in a lot of cases. As clothing gets cheaper to produce and as more pieces are made every single week, I feel like it is just a fact that the quality decreases in that process. I think that this is very evident when you look at like a Shein or a Temu that is just producing so many things at such a crazy scale that it doesn't make logical sense and that it's basically impossible to track in a lot of cases. Not to mention, Shein in particular has been accused of stealing designs from smaller designers just as a means of speeding up production and keeping up with trends. That could almost honestly be, though, like a whole conversation about dupe culture because sometimes a dupe is kind of just necessary. Sometimes it feels like the only or better option in some cases. And I don't think I'm well versed enough on dupe culture to have that particular conversation on the podcast right now because I do feel like dupes are simultaneously insulting to the original designer, but also somewhat inevitable and maybe necessary for markets in order for people to feel like they can participate in trends and walk down Canal Street in Soho and buy a Prada bag, even though it's not really a Prada bag. I don't know. There are so many nuances in that conversation, and I don't feel like I know enough about the topic to talk too much about it here. And I think there are differences between dupes and affordable versions of things and blatant ripoffs and obviously trademark infringements. But to keep up with demand, it kind of is inherent that quality decreases for the most part. I also think that shopping is so complicated now. I feel like we have more ways to shop than we ever had before. I feel like brands are even leaning into text messaging, like, hey, did you see there's a sale right now? You would love this item. There are so many different touch points now for shopping, and I think one of the big issues is that there's like no standardization. Basically, every single brand sets their own sizes, has their own size chart, decides on all of these different things, like what their type of cotton that they use is made of compared to what cotton another brand uses, different fabric compositions, inconsistent sizing across the board, just a million more options than we ever have has also made shopping even more complicated than it ever was. I've even spoken with a few friends who have said that some of their favorite brands from a couple of years ago are almost unrecognizable to them today, whether that comes down to sizing or design or fabrication or who was in charge previously. And it is so crazy to look at how many shifts have just been made in the industry in the last 10 years, call it. And all of these things contribute to why it's harder now to find the forever pieces for your closet, the ones that you truly, truly would keep for 10 plus years in your rotation. Another reason I think it's harder to build a capsule wardrobe today than it ever was before does have to do with social media, because social media has messed up our brain chemistry to some extent in terms of how we think about repeating outfits and re-wearing clothing. I mean, for anyone who buys clothing and keeps it in their closet, I think outfit repeating is going to be inevitable. And I do want to preface this by saying there are a lot of great fashion creators out there who very much make a point to showcase how they re-wear items in their closet. And I just wanted to quickly shout out my friend Megan McSherry. Her handle is Activism on Instagram. I will link her in the show notes. She has a closet audit spreadsheet, which is actually such a smart idea. It's basically a closet audit and outfit tracker template where you can input everything in your closet and you can even track cost per wear. You can track your outfits by date, and it helps you figure out how to get more mileage out of your closet. And her whole platform is about sustainable fashion. So I can link this in the show notes if any of you think this sounds helpful. But when I think about outfit repeating, first of all, of course, I'm thinking about the iconic line from the Lizzie McGuire movie. If that was not the first thing that came to mind for you, I highly suggest you rewatch that movie if it's been a minute. But one thing that I think social media has changed about how we get dressed is that outfit repeating used to be virtually invisible, right? Like you would rewear an outfit in real life, or you would maybe change one little accessory here and there, or how you style it, or how you tuck in your top, or whatever. And there's not really that kind of tangible image of that outfit to go along with it as there is now on social media, right? Like your coworker is not taking a mental picture of you every time you walk into work in an outfit and then comparing it to what you wore 2 weeks ago, right? Like people just aren't doing that. But on social media, when you are documenting your outfits and putting it out there for the world to see, it's a lot easier for people to refer back and say, wait, wasn't she just wearing this? Or, oh, she's wearing this again. Particularly if you are also a creator or influencer or fashion blogger, whatever you identify as, your outfits live online forever when you post them. And I think particularly for fashion bloggers, you kind of have to really pick a lane with your fashion blog. And I know lots of fashion creators who veer more in the direction of capsule wardrobe and re-wearing stuff, but for most fashion creators whose money comes from shopping and affiliates and brand partnerships, there is a lot of pressure there, not just for the sake of Instagram, but also financially for the back end of their business, for them to constantly be showcasing and trying new items. And in some ways, that's a choice, of course. Like you get to decide what you want your content to be. If you go viral for showcasing like a $10 dress from a big box retailer and you make a lot of sales from it, you're probably going to be more inclined to continue to show when things are new in at that store, post affiliate links, and constantly be shopping for your audience's benefit, which can be helpful. I know a ton of fashion creators who share things and who go through the new arrivals at stores that's truly saved me time from having to go through them all myself, and whose opinions and personal style and curation I trust in that sense. But things are always going to be a little more exciting if they're new in and new arrivals and just dropped than if you're like, here's this thing from 3 years ago. It just doesn't sound as exciting as there's something new over here. And I think that even non-creators and people who are not super in tune to the fashion space probably feel this way to some extent when it comes to attending weddings or vacations or birthdays and wanting a special look for those occasions and maybe struggling to rewear the same stuff. Like, can you wear the same thing that you wore to work on your vacation? Sure, but maybe it'll feel more fun or more special to buy something new for vacation. And I think this is in part just the psychological impact that social media has had on, I guess I'll speak for myself at least, although I feel like some other people probably can relate to this, what it does to the brain chemistry to constantly see people in brand new outfits and constantly see people getting new things in and getting gifted stuff. And I think that the constant newness definitely drives algorithms and drives affiliate clicks and all of those things, but it also reinforces this idea that we always need new stuff and that the stuff that we currently have is somehow not good enough. And I think that what I was just saying about social media can be true for Instagram, even dating back to 2016 through 2021, let's call it. We didn't even get into the TikTok really of it all yet. TikTok is one of the biggest reasons that micro trends have really emerged and how trends just move faster than they ever have before. And I talked about this a lot in my recent episode where we recapped the 2020s so far, and we did a whole section and did a deep dive into TikTok's impact specifically on social media, on culture, on sociology, and us as people. So I can link that episode for you guys in the show notes if you didn't get a chance to listen to it yet. We talk a lot more about, like I said, TikTok and the psychology behind it in that episode. When you look at some of the trends that kind of originated on TikTok / social media in the last 3 to 5 years, we had quiet luxury, we had coastal grandmother, tomato girl, fisherman aesthetic. A lot of people also leaning into things like having a Nancy Meyers summer, having a Nantucket summer, an Ina Garten summer, like whatever thing we could take and turn into aesthetic. I feel like we did that. Not to mention TikTok Shop and how many products are sold on there at this point. The numbers are absolutely staggering. If you look at even just the top 10 brands in each category, it's really mind-blowing. And I think that with the emergence of micro trends and social media, it all has created this really perfect storm where not only is it harder than ever to shop because we are constantly being sold to and there are so many options and the amount of new things that are populating our feeds and our email inboxes and our TV screens wherever we get advertised to are just so high. But I think as a result, it's also just so much harder to trust now what will actually stay in your closet for the long haul when you constantly are being sold the idea that you need more or you need better or you need different than what you already have. I also wanted to touch on how the rental economy has kind of changed things in regard to a capsule wardrobe because clothing rental services, I think as you guys know, I am a big fan of them. But I also think that they are one of the reasons why I find it really hard to curate a capsule wardrobe of sorts now, because now people have the option to have clothing in their closet for just a few weeks instead of forever. And if you are someone who likes to change things up or try different things or wear nice brands but for a fraction of the price of actually buying them, like me, then clothing rental can be a great option. The first ever clothing rental subscription service that I tried was Rent the Runway, and I tried it literally for my 16th birthday, which of course, that's the most teenage me thing that I've ever heard in my life. I rented this absolutely stunning gold shimmering strapless gown from Badgley Mishka, and I wore it to my Sweet 16, and I felt like an Oscar, like the statue. I just felt like an actual prize in a sense. And I remembered being so excited by that. I probably could count on one hand, though, the number of total times that I used Rent the Runway from, I guess, the time that I was 16 years old in the early 2010s to maybe 2018-ish. It wasn't a lot, and I felt like it did tend to get a little more expensive. And I also felt as though for me and the jobs that I was working after graduation, the clothes were just a little bit more fancy than what I would need for my everyday. When Nuuly got introduced, I want to say in 2019, I was ecstatic because as someone who had worked at Free People during college and absolutely loved that aesthetic and style, to hear that there was a clothing rental service coming out that kind of more so served everyday needs, at least from my perspective, with brands like Free People, Urban Outfitters, Anthropologie, Page Denim, Farm Rio, et cetera, that were being offered in that subscription, that was extremely enticing to me. I actually was invited to the Newly launch breakfast in New York. It must have been like 2019 because I do feel like I posted a YouTube video reviewing my first ever Newly box around that time. If I can find a link to that old YouTube video, I'll drop it in the show notes just for fun. And again, just to kind of show that I have been a Newly customer for 7 years on and off a little during, 2020, 2021 for obvious reasons. And I found it to be really great. I mainly rent for vacations, weddings, or when I have work stuff going on. Like I rented a box before my branding shoot. I sometimes will rent outfits if I know I have like a big event or something coming up. I also have tried Fashion Pass before, so I want to say that I've done this maybe once or twice. I feel like I did it around my bachelorette, if I'm remembering correctly. And I thought that was good too. It was a little bit more limited than Newly, and I think you could have like 2 items out at a time, but I haven't checked back on it in a little while, so I would maybe look into that one too. And then there are two more that I can think of that I haven't tried yet, and that I think are mostly just if you live in New York, but one is Vivrel, which is clothing rental but for designer handbags, which is very cool. And another one is Pickle, where you can rent from your favorite creators' closets. And like I said, the primary reasons that I would choose to rent clothing are probably for if I'm attending a wedding or special event, if I am going on vacation and I kind of want like a whole new wardrobe, but I don't want to have to spend too much money on things. And even during like the winter months, one thing that I love renting from Newly is a statement coat. And I love that I kind of get to try it out, see if I like that style. I love that for New York Fashion Week. And I've definitely shown that in previous Fashion Week vlogs before. So yeah, clothing rental definitely kind of throws in another layer of confusion for me when it comes to building a capsule wardrobe. And to back up for a second, I feel like I didn't truly define what I think of when I think of a capsule wardrobe. And for me, I think that I have always envisioned it as like you only own 20 items. And maybe that's not right, but that is what I've always thought of it as in my head. So as I was putting together this outline and going through, okay, clothing's gotten more expensive. Fast fashion is obviously a contributor, but brands in general have changed. Social media, micro trends, rental. What if, though, with factoring all of that in and thinking about building a capsule wardrobe in 2026, what if it wasn't as limited as I'm making it out to be in my head, right? Like, what if it's not just about owning the fewest amount of items, like 20 max? I think that rather than trying to just force myself to be a minimalist, which I think I very much know that I am not for the most part, I think that it can be more about just doing my best to find pieces that can exist in conversation with each other really easily and that can pair together a bunch of different ways just to make getting dressed easier. Because I feel like that is the benefit of having a capsule wardrobe. I think that it is always positioned as this will help you make choices faster. This will make getting dressed easier. This will save you time and this will save you money. I feel like of all of those benefits, it really comes down to that. And in my ideal capsule wardrobe, not everything is a neutral. Like I, especially after doing my color analysis and diving more into dressing for my color season, which I have a whole YouTube video on that I can link in the show notes. I would argue that a lot of neutrals actually are not what I am looking for when I'm shopping, with the exception of like brown and black, which I'm always going to be shopping for. But I also love reds and I love pinks and I love those kind of jewel tones as well. So maybe the goal isn't just to have like a very serial killer esque wardrobe where there's 6 things inside and everything is just cream, right? Like maybe there is more to it than that and more to committing to like one aesthetic for the rest of your life that can still classify itself as a capsule wardrobe. So in order to kind of redefine what I think of as a capsule wardrobe, I kind of made 4 bullet points here, which I think sum it up. So number 1 is owning pieces that you genuinely wear, right? Nothing is getting stuck in the back of the closet. Nothing's getting ignored or saved for a special occasion. Like I actually am trying to actively wear everything in my closet. Number 2, reducing impulse purchases. And I think this would help with one of the benefits of a capsule wardrobe being saving money is to not buy on impulse and to not buy lower quality things. Number three is pretty similar, but buying intentionally and just really thinking through what I actually need, trying to fill a gap in my wardrobe rather than just buying something because I saw someone talk about it or because it's on sale that day. And then number four was knowing your style. And I've done other episodes of the podcast where I've talked about finding your personal style before. And I feel like finding even just 3 words to describe your style can be super helpful before you go shopping for pieces that you really want to keep in your wardrobe for a long time and be part of your version of a capsule wardrobe. And if I were to think of 2 instances where capsule wardrobes, like the way that I've kind of thought about them for a long time, could still be helpful or come into play, I think number one could be if you're starting all over. Like if you truly just get rid of everything in your closet and you're starting from scratch, I think that it could be helpful to start with those capsule pieces that you can build and wear together and then kind of grow from there to see what you're missing and what else you might want. And also packing for vacation. I think having a capsule wardrobe for a specific trip when you have limited space in your suitcase and you know that you're going to have to be re-wearing things is maybe a good way to test the waters with a capsule wardrobe and say, okay, I'm not just packing like outfit one, outfit two, but to really pack a bunch of things that could be worn together or could be mixed and matched. My friend Trisha, who lives here in the city, she's a fellow content creator. Her Instagram is happily ever style. Did this video where she did the Sudoku packing method. And I feel like this is the way to do the capsule wardrobe. I'm going to link this reel for you guys in the show notes if you want to watch it. But basically, she puts on her floor a row of tops, a row of bottoms, a row of accessories, and then she shows the Sudoku method of like how she mixes and matches everything. And I feel like that is a more realistic execution and application of a capsule wardrobe than if I were to go in and literally just throw out my whole closet. And I feel like it's just a helpful visual to see too. And after thinking about a capsule wardrobe from all of these different angles and trying to figure out what it means to me, I thought it would be helpful to make a list of the pieces that have at this point earned a permanent status in my closet. Like they are staying and surviving every single declutter that I do. And I reach for them time and time again, especially when I don't know what to wear, to really see just from examples first what a capsule wardrobe actually looks like for me. And I didn't think about these pieces initially thinking that they would go together. I really tried to just make a list of the individual pieces that I know are going to stay in my closet. I mean, as long as they fit me, or until I literally wear them out and they start to disintegrate. But what is interesting about this is that I actually think a lot of these do naturally pair together and can be mixed and matched very easily. But I didn't go into making this list with that intention. And if I did, I think I would have gotten stuck pretty quickly. Okay, so these are the pieces that right now has survived every closet declutter, many of which have been in my closet for a long, long time. Okay, Abercrombie jeans. I talk about these all the time. The 90s relaxed curve love jeans. I have them in 3 colors at this point, and those are my favorites, and they're not going anywhere. Also, the Madewell jeans. They used to have a 90s high-rise style. I think may have been discontinued, so that's even more of a reason for me to hold on to that pair if I can. But I also really like the quality and the feel of the denim from Madewell. Okay, another staple piece that I did only just get this year, but I have kind of had some version of this a lot over the years that maybe was kind of a cheaper material, or maybe that I outgrew, or that just didn't feel like the right length on me. And I finally feel like I have found my perfect version of this item, which is a black mini skirt. Very basic, no surprise there. This one's from French Connection, though. I got it from Macy's, and it was $100 compared to like, I'm making this up, but maybe like a $30 one I got from Lulu's, or like a $18 one I got from Forever 21 many years ago. Like this felt like the right thing to put more money towards because I have seen a version of it in pretty much every iteration of my closet in the last 10 years. And seeing what a gap it was, especially when I would go to get dressed in the fall, I feel like a sweater, miniskirt, tall boot combination is always going to do it for me. I just said, screw it. This is worth going up in price for because I know that I'm going to have this forever. I did write Cezanne blouses on here. I have 2 long sleeve blouses from Cezanne, both of which have a little bit of like a ruffled collar and a little bit of a, what's the word for that? Like elastic wrist almost. Anyway, these are kind of like peasanty, but they're also sophisticated. I can wear them with leather pants for a more daring kind of vibe. I can wear them with jeans for a more bohemian vibe. I just feel like they're so versatile and I love the quality. And a long sleeve blouse like that is always going to be a staple for me in my closet. Also, the Cezanne thin cardigan. I absolutely love this one. I forget the name of it, but this is one of those pieces that I think is always available on their site. Like that, it's not a seasonal thing. They basically just always sell it. I will link it and as many of these things as I can in the show notes, by the way, in case you're after something similar. But I think for me, like a thin cream cardigan, I just feel like there are unlimited uses for a thin cream, nice knit cardigan. I also, on the denim front, have an American Eagle denim jacket that I love so much. It is perfectly oversized. It's like a true denim color, pretty similar to my jeans I'm wearing today if you're watching on YouTube. And I love it so much. I recently, when I decluttered my closet a couple of weeks ago, got rid of my black denim jacket and also my cream denim jacket because they're both really cropped. And I've realized that that is not the fit that I like in a denim jacket. So now I know that I am looking for an oversized black denim jacket and a cream denim jacket to kind of round out that section of my closet. And I want them to be the same cut essentially as that American Eagle one. So I might need to make an American Eagle trip at some point. My Rebecca Minkoff leather jacket. This was very kindly gifted to me because I don't think I would have been able to like afford buying it out of pocket at the time that I was gifted this because I think it was like maybe $600 or $700. But I will say that if I ever like lost this jacket, I feel like I would happily replace it just knowing how much I actually do wear it, how many compliments I get on it. It just looks so good. I feel like it wears well over time. It also has gold hardware, which I feel like is so rare. I feel like so many leather jackets have silver hardware, but I wear more gold jewelry than silver. And I'm just absolutely in love with it. Like, that is a true staple in my closet that I would never get rid of. I also put the Abercrombie leather pants on here. I have them in two different colors. I have the brown and the black, and that is just like always in the rotation for me during the winter months because it's a nice break from jeans. I feel like you can really dress them up or dress them down if you want to, and I feel like they keep me warm, but not too warm unless I'm like out at a bar and it gets really hot inside. That's always interesting, but that's also what dry cleaning is for. Oh, I have this really pretty brown silky midi skirt from Zara, and I have purchased other silk midi skirts before. I think it all has to do with whether or not it's cut on the bias, and I think that that is a dead giveaway of whether something was a little bit cheaper or a little bit pricier to see just how it falls and how it drapes. And this one, I feel like I can tell was cut on the bias, and I feel like as a result, it instantly looks more sophisticated than something that I might have picked up from. I'm making this up, and this is no shade to this store really, but like if I had purchased it from Target or something. I also have a white blazer from Zara. Again, would I love to like invest in a different brand and like a higher quality version of this later in life? Potentially, yeah, for sure. But even the Zara one, I want to say it was probably like, $90 or $110 or something like that, but it's just a crisp white blazer. I can wear it with so many different things. I've had it for many years now, and I really like the silhouette of it. I would put my Coach Brooklyn bag in here as well. This is a purchase that I made earlier this year in celebration of 5 years of being self-employed. I just absolutely love it though. This is a bag that I would want to keep forever, honestly, or like pass it down to someone in the future. Oh my gosh, my nude heels from Topshop. I might actually need to find a replacement for these, not because I want to, but because they actually are on their last legs. Like, I've already had these shoes resold. I love them so much. They're my comfiest heels. I wear them to literally every single wedding that I go to, but I really might need to find a replacement for them because I don't know if a cobbler is going to be able to fix them a second time. And I can see that the straps are really starting to get worn at this point. So that's what I mean by pieces that I'm going to have forever or until I literally wear them out. And these shoes they're getting close to that point. And then two other kind of wild card items. One is the Beyond Yoga workout sets, the space dye fabric. just so comfortable, just so versatile. I feel like it really wears well and washes well. And it doesn't make me feel like I'm dying while I'm working out. And honestly, the best part about it is I really don't think about it when I'm working out, which I feel like is what you want in a workout set. And also the Fits Everyone t shirt bras from Skims. These are like by far my favorite ones that I've ever had. And I just feel like they really hold up well. I feel supported, but not like suffocating. And I really like the material and the fit on these. And again, I feel like the criteria for picking this list was really versatility and how often I wear them, the quality of the items, of course, the comfort factor, many of which, including like the Skims bras, the workout set, and the nude heels that I've had resold, all of which are like items that I'm very, very comfortable in. And also thinking about cost per wear. And again, for something like the Rebecca Minkoff jacket, which to reiterate, I was gifted that a couple of years ago. I did not buy it with my own money. But when I think about the cost per wear of an item of that, if I had put my own money towards it, I would be very happy with what that actually worked out to be. And also the fact that a lot of these items work across seasons. Like maybe not the leather pants. I'm not pulling out the leather pants in the summer, but I can typically wear them from like late September to early March. So that is what, at least 6 months of the year, sometimes maybe into April too, depending on how cold it is. Jeans for me are year round. The Cezanne cardigan is kind of year round too. It's something that I would bring with me to dinner if, even if it was 80 degrees in the summer, but I know that it's going to be freezing in the restaurant and they're going to be blasting that AC. The Zara brown midi skirt, I could dress that more towards a spring vibe. I could dress it more towards a fall vibe. So that feels pretty seasonless to me. And yeah, so that's how I came up with that list. And I think that at this point, to me, the capsule wardrobe is really just an idea that I'm going to try to be less fixated on because, again, I feel like building a capsule wardrobe is so hard to do at this point, and it feels like a little bit of an unrealistic thing for me to be working towards. But at the same time, I think that even just doing this episode and creating this outline and talking about it with you guys has gotten me a little more inspired to shop more for fun in my closet, continue to support brands that I really love and believe in, especially ones that have really passed the test where I keep them even after I declutter my closet, where I can test a capsule wardrobe like when I'm going on a trip or something, and really where I can just continue to be a thoughtful consumer when it comes to fashion. And I think that I do that by renting clothing instead of buying stuff that then I get rid of immediately after, or wearing things just one time. Like I really try not to do that anymore. And I think that doing this exercise has given me more to think about when it comes to how I want to build my closet and what I'm shopping for. And it's something that I'm going to be still working on and that I can update you guys on if you're interested. If you have thoughts on this, please reach out and share them with me. I would love to hear from you. And otherwise, I will talk to you all again next week.